When we think about improving our part of this vast but divisive world we live in, we oftentimes don't consider things like connecting or networking. But Jesus has 4 tips along this line to improve your world. Let me tell you what they are.
You're watching Timeless Talks, timeless subjects, information for life.
Connecting with strangers was one thing Jesus was an expert at doing. We're going to read a story that came out of his life from Luke 5, beginning in verse 12, to find his 4 tips for improving your life and mine. While he was in one of the cities, there came a man full of leprosy. Leprosy in his day, well, it might as well have been a death sentence. We have a pretty good understanding of what quarantine is from our COVID experiences, especially in the last few years. After a week or so, we get to go back to doing the things that brought us glory before. But to have leprosy was a lifetime quarantine. You were put out of town. You could have no dealings with your own family, no dealings with any of your friends. In such isolation, you couldn't hold down a job. And you couldn't hold it down because your fingers and your toes were literally rotting off. It was a horrible, disgusting disease. The man who met Jesus should not be touched. The text continues by saying, "And when he saw Jesus, he fell on his face and begged him, 'Lord, if you will, you can make me clean.'" And that was exactly what Jesus did. He did what safe people would never do. Verse 13 says, "And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him." Touching? We reserve the right to be touched. The only people to touch us are those who care about us. Touching validates us, and we have our own worth confirmed. And Jesus touched this man. We're going to get back to that in just a moment. Jesus continued, "I will. Be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him. Jesus could see what that leper actually needed. It was extremely obvious. And Jesus had the power to do something very helpful for him. Jesus helped this man. He gave him a new lease on life. Now, being clean, being whole again, this man could associate with his family. He could go get a job. He could do the things that you and I take for granted. And then it says, "And he charged him to tell no one, but go and show yourself to the priest, and make an offering for your cleansing as Moses commanded, for a proof to them." Jesus told this man to go do what the Old Testament law said he was to do. When a man was cured of leprosy or his health conditions improved, he was allowed to go to the priest. The priest would examine him. The priest would determine if he was legally cured or not, and that he could return back into society. If he followed Jesus' command, he would do what he should do. We'll come back to this again too. Now, about those 4 tips. Tip number 1, meet your set of untouchables. Connect with them. Every one of us has our own set of people that we just can't stand to be around. Maybe they are suffering from economic depression. Maybe they are of a different race. Maybe they're from a different part of the world and they don't talk like we do. Maybe in the past you couldn't trust those kinds of people. Maybe their family was involved in illegal activities. And those are the people that you need to be in contact with. Tip number 2. The second tip is to touch those people who are untouchable. Convey to them not what you think, but what God thinks about them. Work through your own attitudes and prejudices. Realize that God's Son, the one that died for you, also died for them. and love them too. Touch them, that is, communicate to them God's compassion and God's love. Tip number 3, what you need to do with these people is to help them. Help them the way Jesus did. Now, what our friends need may not be as obvious as leprosy, but you do know their needs. If they're economically depressed, maybe you need to give them some little job around, like mowing the lawn, or better yet, painting the shed, or if needed, tear that shed down. But give them something that they can be paid for, and that will give them dignity and continues this idea that God cares about them. Tip number 4. Again, just do what Jesus did. Command them. Now, not like a military drill sergeant, but to do what they should do, to do what God expects them to do. Can you show them the kind of life that they should be having? You know, the one described in Colossians 3, or the one found in Philippians, or the one found in Ephesians. You could show them your life that is great and wonderful and healthy, but instead, kindly command them to do what they should do. Or maybe, is that something I need to be commanding you to do? If you need help, me and my friends would be glad to help. Could we pray for you? If you need prayers, there is a prayer request page under services here at timelesstalks.net. We will treat your request with privacy and dignity. But if you don't know what to do, we can still help you. Use the phone number that you're seeing here to leave us a voice message with your name and phone number and maybe your problem. Or you could do the same thing with a text to that same number. We will give you Bible information and guidance as needed, quickly, kindly, and with dignity. We also hope that you'll sign up for the free email newsletter or the SMS text messaging service that we have. Be the first to see our next video. Now, wait, before you go, I also want to tell you, you need to watch Sternly Charged. Sternly Charged. It's another video about the life of this same leper. What Jesus tells this man is not exactly what most people think about Jesus. It's different. Sternly Charged. You'll see it down here below. Hey, we thank you for spending time with us today. We hope that you'll come back again soon. Maybe, how about tomorrow? Same time, same place? Sure. We'll be here. But until we can visit again, well, goodbye for now.